Hi, welcome to KartTV. I'm Nils Schneider, and today I'm going to show you my favorite way of making a pie dough. What I have here is I've got my flour. This is just general all-purpose flour, everything that you kind of just have in your pantry at home. And then I've measured out a 1/4 cup of ice water. So this is my secret little weapon here. This is vodka. And what vodka does is it prevents gluten development. So the alcohol percentage will actually help it if you end up overworking your dough. And then what we have here is we have shortening and butter. And I also have a little bit of salt here and just a little bit of dusting flour from my hands. So first off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our flour, okay? And then we're gonna mix it with our salt. And we're just gonna use our hands. So we're gonna go right in. With our butter as well. And again, we wanna just be very careful not to warm it up too much, but we wanna be very quick with this, okay? If you have a pie dough cutter, you can use that. That will just prevent any warmth going into the butter and the shortening, but this is just fine, especially if you're making it at home. It doesn't need to be perfect. Going fast as we can, making sure we're not warming it up too much, and just breaking it down into little pea-sized pieces of fat. We're gonna go right in with our vodka to make sure that we're not overworking the dough, overdeveloping gluten strands. We're gonna mix that nice and well. Okay, and then we're gonna go in with our ice water. And you're really just gonna work this very quickly and very gently until it starts to form into a ball. And we're pretty much almost there. You don't have to worry too much about it being fully together, because once it's rested in the fridge, it will really just kind of come together. And it might look a little flaky at this moment, but that's fine. We do want a flaky and tender crust. So now we'll just have it on a working surface. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab a pastry knife. Pastry knife is usually just a blunt edge knife. So we're just gonna cut this in half, and we're just gonna press it into discs. Okay, you can see the fat is not overworked. You can still see it kind of marbled throughout the dough. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna wrap these in cling film and we'll rest them overnight. All right, so we pulled our pie dough from the other night. So we're gonna take our shells. So what I do is I take the softened butter, and this gets kind of messy, but just use your hands. We're just gonna really rub around the sides and the bottom. And you really want to work it into all the little corners and crevices. And this is just really going to help later on in the process once we've baked it and we've got to try and pull it from the mold. It'll make it so much easier. And we're going to do the other one. Okay, so now that we've buttered our shells, we're just going to take our flour and we're going to lightly dust it. And I just kind of tap around. But you really want the shell to kind of look something like this. We're gonna go into our dough. So we're gonna take our chilled pie dough. Again, we don't want to overwork it. So we're gonna start rolling it out. You just want to be nice and gentle with it. Just kind of start slow. And the goal here is we want to make kind of a nice large round, and we want to make sure that the bottom is constantly covered in flour. You can always kind of lift up and dust it as you're going. You can see that nice fat marble inside, all the shortening within it. Then you can always take your shell. So for me, that's pretty good right there. And then what we'll do, so just very gently fold it. And fold it one more time. Very carefully lifting it. We're going to put it right into the mold, just like so. And then we're going to fold it over one more time. And lastly, like this. Now, here comes the important part. So we're going to start shaping it. And as we're going, we're going to kind of follow right into the nice corner here and just pushing just gently, okay? But you really want to work that line in. And you want to lift the top of the dough first and allow it to kind of work into those grooves. And then this is where you can really just start pressing it in. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut off just around the excess. Now, if you're doing apple pie or something, you can keep these pieces and rework them, and then you can use them to kind of lattice the top of the pie. What we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of fold the top up a little bit. So now that we have just enough overhanging, what we're gonna start to do is we're gonna take our knife one more time. We're just gonna follow along the edge. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our fingers and do a little technique. We're just gonna start crimping it, okay? So we're just gonna press in with a finger and push with the two, just kind of like this. And we're gonna follow it along the mold. And what we wanna do is just kind of pull it just over the edge. And almost as I'm pushing in, I'm pulling down a little bit just so it kind of hooks on the top there. And we'll finish like that. We can kind of press the edges back in, making sure that we have a nice tight seal all the way around the edges as well. So once you have your shell like this, we're gonna start docking it with the fork. We just wanna follow a nice little even path, especially kind of getting into the corners and kind of the middle of the pie as well. Those tend to be the areas where it really lifts up. We're gonna grab our parchment paper. You don't need to cut it perfectly, just enough to weigh it down in the center. You can take your scissors. If you don't want these edges to kind of burn, you can kind of trim this up a little bit. Okay, and then we'll weigh it down with the corn. Now before baking these, what I really like to do is putting them back into the fridge and just let them rest for about another half an hour. And while that's resting, we're gonna set our oven to 350 degrees. All right, so we're just gonna throw these in. All right, so these have been baking probably about 15, 20 minutes here. Now, the key to a par bake is we just wanna cook the bottom. We're just gonna move our kernels here and transfer them to a bowl. Thanks for tuning into KartTV. I'm Nils Schneider, and this is how I like to make pie dough and blind bake pie shells.